So prison chairman Wontumi Exim bank fraud case asanso esi ebo so a enye asam keto akra lawyer Andy Apia Kubi withdraw from case wa hand over the amade tactical attaching yedi kan drop the amamona abusua plea negotiation deal so na lawyer attaching ene okoko pie mu ewo court Andy Apia Kubi de Wontumi anya den ama court na we na osre court ne say ono na afi na waba be so case ni munti court no emma ne mbre na onfan steady game no na abusuya court ne so asan so ama no 27th of August ultimatum say 27th of August no na abusuya plea negotiation deal no plea bargain no omo awie bibia abusuya enye asam keto akra nti no lawyer Andy Apia Kubi de wajeje chairman Wontumi edna kwa akosi ekwan mu right now lawyer attaching ono ena charge no akesifo ede ho nsem ababeto ja mom yenko na yenkonko tie ensem a ekoso ewo court wo efa chairman Wontumi ni plea bargain negotiations ne ba yede di aka ato am so unsubscribe ya subscribe na hit on a notification bell no so send be any updates be dropping on so once ebitumi akabi aha gossip politics TV so
as the NPP stalwarts, including former national chairperson Freddie Plea and leader in parliament Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, are lending their support to convicted Ashanti Regional Chair of the NPP, Bernardine Triboesiako, in his 30 million cedi Exim Bank fraud case. The parties are expected to provide the court with an update on the plea negotiations. Chairman Wontumi is facing, among others, charges of defrauding by false pretenses, forgery, and money laundering. He has initiated a plea deal with the Attorney General. Other persons present to support the NPP executive, Alfosia Yorubi MP Kojo Nkrumah and Richard Ahiagba, Samia Wuku, Anthony Kabo, and Jefferson Saki, as well as Dennis Miracles Abuachi. My colleague Lord Edwasare is in court for us. Let's connect with him right now with a bit more in terms of details. Lord, it's quite packed today. Walk us through what the mood has been like from his arrival up until him appearing before the justice and the support as well that he's receiving today.
Indeed, Marion. So essentially, Wontumi once again was brought to the court, and this time around the General Jurisdiction 2. That's the court hearing the Exim Bank fraud case. Now, he came in today composed, quiet, a bit gloomy, but then shortly after he was brought, Sama Atachia and his other lawyers came to the courtroom and then came to speak to the court clerk, and he was informed that the case was yet to be called because it was scheduled to be around 10:30, but he had come way earlier. So once he got the date, he proceeded to a different matter because you know that Atachia is also representing the former National Signals Bureau Director, Addo. Well, once Wontumi was seated, we had a plethora of NPP stalwarts trooping in. The names that you mentioned, immediately he saw them. There was some brightness in Wontumi's face. He was full of joy now. You could tell that he was very pleased seeing his compatriots who had come to, as they were solidarized with him. They all sought the permission of the prison officer and then went ahead to talk to Wontumi. They engaged in conversations. A number of them, you see Kojo Nkrumah, the former majority leader, Honorable Chairman of s0nèd. Then there was Anthony Kabo, and all the other names that you mentioned earlier. And they all took their turns to interact with Wontumi, after which he sat down. So you could see that Wontumi was very excited at the turnout of the NPP bigwigs who showed up in court today. Now, to the substantive case itself, once it was called, or even before I get to that now, there was a point where the Deputy Attorney General walked in because he came from the Kabna Edibuahin case. They have to stand that case down because some attachment has the same counsel in that matter. Now, when the Deputy Attorney General came to court, because the entire courtroom was still to the brim of fully packed, there was little space for the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General to sit because now there were other lawyers in another matter. The only space available was next to Chairman Wontumi, and so he went to sit next to Wontumi, and the scene over there was quite an interesting one. They would not even look at themselves up, among other things. But now, when the case was called, Chairman Tasha indicated to the court, first introduced himself as a friend of the court, and told the court that the substantive lawyer for Wontumi, Andy Akubi, had withdrawn from the case, and so he was the one taking over the Exim Bank case. He indicated that he actually prayed for adjournment because he indicated that he had now taken over the case, and although there was a plea negotiation which Andy Akubi had begun, it had to be put to a stop, and as he spoke, he had conferred with the Deputy Attorney General, and so he was ready to now restart the entire plea negotiation process. And so he was pleading with the court for a long adjournment. He actually prayed for 90 days. But responding to the prayer, Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Shemsai indicated that indeed what Samuel Thatcher had indicated, he affirmed that yes, there were conversations regarding the plea negotiation, but indicated that the time that Atafi was asking for was a bit of a stretch, and so he wanted the court to give them about 30 days. Now, the presiding judge in the matter indicated that even before today's case, there were directions for them to update the court on the status of the plea negotiation. And so if it has failed, because they're given 30 days for the plea negotiation, once that had elapsed and they couldn't come to a deal, there was a need for the court to give directions for the prosecution to further disclosures and essentially for the trial to continue. Now, Dr. Justice Shemsai indicated that was well and good, but because there were conversations about a new plea bargaining negotiation between the parties now, although the trial can go concurrently, because of the plea negotiation, he prayed to the court for more time to allow them, as it were, go through the negotiation without having to file the disclosures. Because once the disclosures have been filed, it means that the trial is essentially or effectively going to happen. After listening to both sides of the divide, the presiding judge in the matter then adjourned the case to August 27 for further directions. So when they are back in court on August 27th, we'll get to know what the court's direction will be as far as whether they should proceed the plea negotiation or what that will be, Marina.
So we don't even know if the court has granted them room to go and negotiate the plea bargain in relation to this matter. That will be determined on August 27 when they return to the courtroom.
As far as this is concerned, there's somewhat a gentleman's agreement between all the parties, but going according to the practice direction, the court indicated that we have to adjourn the proceedings for further directions on what to do pertaining to the matter. But then Atasha and then the prosecution led by the Deputy Attorney General have indicated that indeed they are all in the same boat as far as the plea negotiation is concerned. And so they are asking for a 30-day window for the negotiation to essentially go through.
Right. Let's stay in the courts. Still on matters relating to both councils, right? Because we know Samuel Atachian was in the former Signals Bureau boss's case. Was that put on hold to allow this proceed? And then I'll come to you on Hanan as well, because we know his wife has been filing an application seeking to leave the jurisdiction for their son's medical treatment.
Indeed, Marina. So, like he indicated, Samuel Atachian is the lead counsel for the former National Signals Bureau director. Now, that case was slated for 9:30, and then Wontumi's case was slated for 10:30. And so, once it was around 10, getting to 10:30, the substantive counsel in the matter, which is Samuel Atachian, he prayed with the court for the case to be stood down so that they can go to come for the Chairman Wontumi case. And so, once the case was done, then he proceeded to go back to the Addo case. So as we speak right now, Samuel Atachian and the Deputy Attorney General are back at the Addo court going through
the prosecution's third witness being the Iyoko investigator, Frank Cromwell. He's being cross-examined by lawyer for the former National Signals Bureau director.
On Hanan's wife now, she's filed an application. She's the second accused in that buffer stock saga, seeking to leave the jurisdiction for their child's medical attention. What more do we know about this, and how have prosecution as well been reacting to this latest application?
Well, as far as that application is concerned, the hearing notice has been scheduled for tomorrow. But Marina, there's the interesting thing about it. There's been a circular signed by the Chief Justice because of the anniversary by the Supreme Court. All judges and essentially lawyers have been given the permission to absent themselves from the court. Now, all things equal, the court may not sit unless the presiding judge in the matter decides to seek permission from the Chief Justice to hear the matter. Because, for example, Marina, in a separate matter at the Criminal 4, where it is presided by Justice Audrey Kokuviti, there was a matter in court today regarding the SkyTrain project where the parties were supposed to file their defense, but they had failed to do so. And so she made further directions that although there's a matter happening, for which reason all courts are not supposed to sit, or judges are supposed to absent themselves, she has sought permission from the Chief Justice, and so from tomorrow she will sit. And so unless the ex-NAFCO boss's case, the presiding judge in the matter takes a similar route, all things equal, the case may not come off because of that circular which has been sent by the Chief Justice.
The Chief Justice. Right. Lord, I appreciate those details there. That's Lord Edward Saris, my colleague, in court for us.
Assisting the sale of the company over fears of job losses. VALCO has been up for private sector injection by government to deal with the debt overhangs and operational inefficiencies. But for the workers, the privatization is a cover-up for the sale of the state entity, which would result in possible job losses. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union has called on President John Mahama to immediately intervene and halt the proposed sale of VALCO. Daniel Opoku is Labour correspondent on this beat. Daniel, what can you tell us from where you are right now?
Right. So currently, the leadership of ICU, who are also the leaders of the workers, presented a petition to the Municipal Chief Executive of Fort Tema Metropolitan Assembly. That's Madame Ibibra. She took the petition on behalf of the president. Basically, what they are saying is that government should suspend the sale agreement or the sale of VALCO, so that government will concentrate in terms of investing, putting a lot of money to revive the company. And secondly, they are of the view, the leadership of workers are of the view that in case government should sell VALCO, then obviously workers are going to lose their jobs. That is what the leadership of ICU, that's what they are protecting. And very soon, within this week, they are going to have a series of actions. And they will also be engaging the sector ministry, and also, if possible, they will be engaging the president, which they have sent a petition to him for him to have a second look at the sale of VALCO, for government to suspend the sale of VALCO.
Do we know if management has spoken in response to the latest demonstration?
Right. One of the petitions, they have also sent it to management. But in the position of management, I do recall somewhere last month, the position of management has been that they are still engaging. And they are the government also should look at the need to consider investment to revive the company. They believe that will also help revive VALCO. But currently, from the position of management, they said they are ready to work collaboratively with the leadership of the workers to be able to resolve these growing problems. Because obviously, when this should persist, VALCO is the position of management is engaging with leadership of workers to resolve the problem.
Now, Danny, we've heard over and over again from management and from government that VALCO is not up for sale. So where is the fear the workers feel now coming from? What do they tell you?
Right. So when we listen to the workers, through their leadership, led by the General Secretary, Mr. Morgan Ayawene, what they are saying is that the past few months they have seen some kind of capital investment into VALCO, and they have seen some new equipment being bought. Also, they have seen digitalization taking place, and other key measures and initiatives have been put in place to revive VALCO. And they believe that the government should continue on that trajectory. Then obviously, they may not necessarily need an investor or somebody who is coming to buy VALCO, and put it that way, because the investor is bringing, the company is do so to the investor in excess of 70%. And when the investor takes in excess of 70%, obviously the rest of the 30% will go to government, and that will be a bit of a difficulty according to the leadership of the workers. So they believe that government should engage them properly. Then obviously they can help to revive VALCO. They made this comment based on the various discussions that they have had with regard to other key government agencies and other key government companies which are also being revived, that they believe that a lot of investments are made into those areas. Then clearly VALCO, like other key agencies, can be on a sound economic footing. So they say that VALCO should not be sold.
Very well. And Danny, just before we listen to the workers you have been speaking to, talk to us about what they plan to do next.
And then the next action is for the leadership of ICU. They said they'll be having the National Executive Council meeting, and they are hoping that government should, within this space, that within this week, be able to resolve the problem. Other than that, and beyond next week, we are going to see a lot of series of actions within VALCO and also other areas. But when you look at the leadership and the membership of ICU, they have about 11 regions, and almost what they do usually is to assemble every worker in the other companies that they work with, and they will go and marshal up and stand just in front of VALCO, be picketing, be protesting, ensure that government also listens to them. And one key point to come in is the fact that the leadership of ICU is asking organized labor to also consider the concerns that they have raised, that organized labor must step in, CUT must also step in to ensure that government does not sell VALCO, or else workers are going to suffer. Already, government is talking about resetting Ghana, also talking about creating jobs. And they are the view that if government should put capital investments in VALCO, then obviously we are going to see a lot of job creation, and that will clearly address the unemployment problem we have currently.
Well, Danny, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Daniel Opoku is our Labour Affairs correspondent. We can now take a listen to the workers who are protesting now.
Workers of this country, we are here to determine the fate of one of our premier companies that was bequeathed by Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to all of us. Yes. Is that not true? Yes. And it has been noticed that over the years, successive governments have attempted to sell everything, and now they are at it again and they want to sell VALCO. We are here to do politics. We are not partisan politicians. We are labor unions, and our take is to make sure that jobs are created, because we have been assured by this current government that the unemployment situation in Ghana is becoming so dire, and measures and policies are being put in place to make sure that we create jobs, and it is the responsibility of government to create jobs. So the few state-owned organizations that we have in this country, we have to protect them, especially VALCO. We used to have Kaiser VALCO, and then they packed bag and baggage and left the source of this country and handed over this national asset to Ghanaians. So what the white man can do, the black man can do.
Protestant workers of VALCO. But let's stay on this subject. Mahama joins us with some facts as far as this company is concerned. What are we learning? Right, and so the troubles have been there for quite some time. Pretty much a lot of these state-owned enterprises having to deal with debt overhangs, a drop in terms of production output, amongst other things, resulting in challenges like this, which brings about conversations as to, do we go private? Where can the state find capital to inject again into a business entity which has struggled for some time, right? So that's what we're looking at in terms of the Volta Aluminium Company Limited. And they are a huge deal in terms of what the plan was for this country. Kind Ketsi Osagyefo for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We had one of the leadership speaking to this. They produce about 200,000 metric tons of aluminium, right? Now, as we speak, down to about 35 to 40,000 tons. That's about 20%, 17 to 20%
capacity, which is woefully inadequate for a company like VALCO. But what is the situation as we speak? In terms of evaluation which has been done, and this is according to Giadik, VALCO is valued at around 90 to 100 million US dollars. But the problem is not how much they are worth, it's how much they owe. About 3 times what they are worth is how much they owe. $450 million owed to Gridco, to the GRA, and then TDC, Tema Development Council as well. Gridco because of energy, because they have direct power, because of a lot of the money, what they do, the steel works they do requires a lot of power, and so they take directly from them. GRA, obviously, will mean revenue, and then as well TDC. Now, how much is needed is a big question. If we are to take into consideration how much is owed from here, right? $450 million, and then the valuation of the company, then roughly we're speaking to some $600 million to bring it back to life and to have it run at full capacity and be able to deliver, right? Because when they run at a full capacity, that will mean a bit more room as well for employment for persons in that regard. But where are we currently in terms of that attempt to have it brought back to life? Well, we're seeing an opposition from workers. One of such is why we're having this conversation today. They are rejecting the private sector injection plan, right? Because they say there's a lack of transparency, undisclosed investor names, and artificially exaggerated debt figures. So the workers do not believe that the $450 million, which we are mentioning, is actually what the state of the company's debt situation is. They believe it is lower and it is not that $450 million. And so the belief and the perception is that, well, all of this is being done to hand it over to an individual. Then we've also seen some controversies in relation to land ownership, spatial usage, and what have you, which has been decided by GIADE, confirming that the TDC does own some surplus land in that regard. But here's where we are. The government and then Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Company saying that, look, VALCO is not being sold. We are seeking equity participation so that we can burden share both the debts and provide a bit more in terms of capital to have the company running again. But the workers say privatization is just another name to sell the company. And if that were to go through, that will result in a loss of state control and potentially result in job losses as well, which is where the concern really is as to jobs being readily available and for them to have the opportunity to work as well. Let's take you now to Zoom, speak to a member of the union who are opposed to the protests. Quite interestingly, they say that the protest is not necessary. Kwesi Amponsa Bediako is one of the union members. Kwesi, it's an interesting position you're taking. Whilst the union at large is arguing protection of jobs and are questioning the debt portfolio of the company, you say the protest is needless. Why? Well, it does suggest we may not have Kwesi via Zoom as we'd want just as yet because of connectivity issues from his side, right? I was struggling with connecting with him promptly and as quickly as possible to help provide a bit more in terms of the details. Kwesi has joined us again. Let's try one more time. Kwesi, I'm asking why you're saying that the protest is not important.
Once again.
Right. Yeah, Kwesi, can you hear us? The network connection to you is not entirely really great. And if there's something that can be done about it, can you try for me one more time?
Unless she changes the shot she has taken.
Right. It does appear Kwesi cannot hear us at this particular point in time. But the conversation is in relation to Giadek. But here is what leadership, right, has said in the past in relation to the situation with VALCO.
An investor. Who is against an investor? Somebody might ask that question because, you could be making profit and you could need an investor because of probably where you want to get to and the timeline. You understand? But the conversation of the kind of investors that probably is being turned out towards VALCO is because the true story has not been told. The true story now is that VALCO is not a deficit. VALCO is a profit-making machine. VALCO in the last 6 months have been making profit consistently. Probably it was made based on the information then. So probably going forward, if anybody has to talk about anything at all, maybe whoever should come back to VALCO, sit with VALCO, what is your situation? But don't forget, I did say, depending on the speed that probably is needed to generate whatever that government wants to generate. Don't forget that VALCO is purely Ghanaian. Government owns VALCO. Therefore, VALCO will welcome any investment by government.
Afternoon, it's a park court.
So I was winning and smart a course so our political highway. So chairman Wontumi and HSN Exim bank case, after say a sentence, 20 years, or that's so HR court quiet. And on some any the brand, but I must some penny cocoa teaser and some way. Aha, gossip politics to you so.